I hope you are doing well. My name is Moni and welcome back to my channel. Today I would be discussing something important if you want to immigrate to Canada in 2023. We are going to talk about a very important immigration program that happens in the Atlantic provinces of Canada and which is known as Atlantic Immigration Program. Now let's go to a little bit to the history of why this program started. So this program was started because there was a huge labor crisis in the Atlantic provinces of Canada. Now you would say, what are the Atlantic provinces of Canada? So Canada has 4 Atlantic provinces. The first one being Nova Scotia, the second one being New Brunswick, the third one being PEI, which is Prince Edward Island, the fourth one being Newfoundland and Labrador. So these are the 4 Atlantic provinces of Canada, and this program is related to the 4 Atlantic provinces. So initially this program was started as a pilot program back in 2017 where labor crisis in Canada and the federal government as well as the Atlantic provinces, they decided to start this program. This was a 5-year program and it ended on December 2021, and this was a pilot program back then, but the motive of this was to try and see whether this program would work and whether the labor shortage would decrease in any of the 4 Atlantic provinces. So this program turned out to be a huge success. It started as a permanent program last year, that is 2022, when in March 6th they were started accepting applications for this Atlantic immigration program. So this program is based on the foreign skilled workers as well as the international graduates who have studied in any of the Canadian institutions in the Atlantic provinces. So this program, so both of them can take the advantage of this program. The intent of this, it should be you should stay in the Atlantic provinces, you should stay there, you should work there, you should start your family there, and just increase the population as well as decrease the labor shortages, increase the economic growth of the Atlantic provinces. That is the motive behind this program. So this program is an employer designed program. So this was basically started because the employers were facing a huge labor shortages, and so they can migrate people from all the parts of the world to the Atlantic provinces just to overcome this labor shortages. If an employer is part of the AIP, he can apply for the permanent residencies of the employees and they can migrate from any part of the world, and all the process would be done by the employer. Now let's talk about what are the requirements that are required in order to apply for an AIP. The first one is, and the most important is, in order to apply to AIP you need a valid job offer letter from one of the employers in the Atlantic provinces. Without a job offer letter, you can't even see what are the other eligibility criteria, because the first and the foremost thing is their job offer letter. Now after the valid job offer letter, there are 2 criteria, like if you are applying as a foreign skilled trade worker, and if you are applying as an international student who has graduated from any one of the Canadian institutions which are present in the Atlantic provinces. So there are different requirements for both the categories. Let's talk about the foreign skilled worker first. Now, in order to apply to AIP for a foreign skilled worker, the first and important thing you should have is a valid work experience in the NOC that you are applying. So if you have applied for a NOC 1 category, you need an experience in NOC 1. Now in the last 5 years, you should have a work experience of 1,560 hours. Suppose you work for 30 hours in a week, so 30 into 52, which gives you 1560 hours. So you require that much hours of experience in the last 5 years, which is very easy. It's not a very big requirement. Now, before turning into this, let's understand what a NOC category is, what a NOC tier is. So there are 5 NOC categories, the one being NOC 0, NOC 1, NOC 2, NOC 3, NOC 4, NOC 5. NOC 5, I guess you cannot apply to an AIP if you are at NOC 5. So whatever work you do, just look at the equivalent NOC here in Canada. If your NOC is NOC 1, which is the knock for software engineer, you can apply for all the jobs equivalent to your knock category or all the jobs above your knock category. You cannot apply anything which is below your knock category. The second requirement would be you have the language requirements, and the language there are a couple of exams that you can give. The thing that I know is mostly people give IELTS, and you require very basic scores in IELTS. Now the IELTS score also depends on which knock category you are applying to. So if you're applying to knock 0, knock 1, knock 2 or knock 3, then the IELTS then the basic score requirements would be up till CLB 5, I guess. And if you are applying for a tier 4, that is knock category tier 4 category, the basic IELTS requirement would be CLB 4. These are some really basic scores, like which has like a minimum 5 or 4 in each category. The next thing that we require, apart from the work experience as well as the language requirement, we also need to have the educational requirements. So if you have knock 0 and knock 1 category job offer letter, you require a post-secondary education here in Canada or an equivalent degree in any of the foreign institutions. If you have lower knock categories, that is knock 2, 3 and 4, you require at least a high school diploma, or you can have the equivalent degree in any of the foreign institutions. Now for those foreign skilled workers who got a job offer letter here, you're required to do an ECA. Now ECA is educational cumulative assessment. So this is just an assessment that you have an equivalent degree from any other foreign institution which is not in Canada. So apart from this, you have one more requirement, and it is to get the funds. You should have the settlements here. If you are only one person coming here in Canada and you don't have a family of 2, 3 or 4, then you just need to show funds of somewhat around 3,324, and this fund changes if you have a family of 2, family of 3 and family of 4. You have to show these funds just to make sure that you can survive in Canada, and this is the minimum amount of funds that you need to bring here in this country when you are filing for AIP. Now let's talk about the requirements that we need if we are an international graduate who has been studying in the Atlantic provinces. So the educational requirement is you need to be registered in a 2-year-long course, and you need to be present in Nova Scotia for at least of 16 months out of the 2 years. And you should be a full-time student here. You should have a valid study permit for it. These are the basic academic requirements that you need. Once you have this academic requirements, the best part about this is you do not require a foreign experience, as well as you don't also need to show the funds. The only requirement would be IELTS, and the IELTS result should not be older than 2 years. Now there is one more thing. What if you got a job offer letter but the employer doesn't support AIP? So in this case, you can talk with your employer. It's really easy for them to bring skilled worker and be a designated employer who supports AIP. So you can talk with your employer and go through the steps with him. Now let's talk about the job offer letter. What are the conditions you should have in order to apply to AIP? So the first thing is the job should be non-seasonal. You only have the job in summer and you don't have the job in winter as well as fall. So it shouldn't be the case like that. Okay, now the second requirement is it should be a full-time job. The third being, if the job knock tier is 0, 1, 2, 3, it should have an end date for 1 year written on the offer letter. It could be more than that, but at least it should be of 1 year. And if it is a knock category 4, then it should be a permanent job. There should be no end date to it. And the fourth condition should be you should be at the same knock level that you were in your foreign country. So if you were a software engineer in your home country, you should have the same knock level job here, or a higher position here in the Atlantic provinces. Now to this, there is just one exception. So only for healthcare this works. If you have a job lower than your knock level, you can work your job, get a certification, and then work as a registered nurse here in the Atlantic provinces. So all the healthcare officials outside of Canada, this is a good opportunity for you here to come here, work as well as study, and then you can work as a full-time official here in the Atlantic provinces. Now once you have the valid job offer letter, educational requirements, academic requirements, you have the language requirements, you have the work experience and everything, you should gather your documents, apply for your PR, and just wait for the process. The entire time it takes in order to get a PR is around 12 months, and it can vary. Now there is also one provision where you can get a temporary work permit in this process. So this is for those individuals who have applied for PR through AIP, who have a valid job offer letter. They can you can get a work permit here, a temporary work permit, and this work permit would be just for the AIP program. It would be just for 1 year, and it would be and you would be bided to work at the same job that you got offered. Like, you cannot switch your jobs in between. Your employer should be the same, and it should be and you have to work for 1 year in the same job. So there is one case you can apply for the temporary work permit. You have all the documents, you already have all the documents for it. You just need to apply for it, and you will get a temporary work permit for 1 year, which is also nice. You can do that if you want, but the general processing time for this entire AIPA process is 12 months. So it's quite a tedious process, and it takes a bit of time, but you after all you get the PR, and it's really nice if you come to any of the Atlantic provinces. I guess I have talked a lot about it, and I'll provide the official link to the AIPP site, and you can see and check out the link below in the description box.